In 2021, a woman named Maria got a 6% raise at her accounting firm in Dallas. She'd been with the company 3 years, hit every target, and her manager told her she was one of the best on the team. 6%. She was thrilled. By December of that same year, Maria was overdrafting her checking account for the first time since college. That raise, by every measure her company gave her, was a good one. Her salary went from $58,000 to $61,480. On paper, her life improved. The number went up. The number going up is the lie. In 2021, U.S. inflation hit 7%, the highest it had been since 1981. That 6% raise Maria got? It was actually a 1% pay cut in real terms. Her salary grew. Her purchasing power shrank, and she had no idea because nobody runs that number for you. This didn't just happen in 2021. It has been happening to American workers in slow motion for years. The difference is that between 2021 and 2023, it moved fast enough that people finally felt it. Their savings stopped stretching. Their grocery receipts looked wrong. Their rent renewals arrived and made no sense. What I want to show you today is the actual math. Not the salary number, not the raise percentage, the real number of what your paycheck actually buys, how much ground most workers have lost since 2019, and why chasing a higher salary alone will not fix this. When most people talk about their salary, they're talking about one number. Whatever the offer letter says, that's the nominal wage. The word nominal comes from the Latin nomen, which means name. It's the number in the name. It doesn't tell you what you can actually buy. The number that matters is your real wage. Real wage is your salary adjusted for inflation. And when you look at real wages since 2019, you see something that no negotiation training prepares you for. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, between 2020 and 2023, real wages for American workers declined in 17 out of 36 months. That means for the better part of 3 years, even workers who were getting raises were getting poorer. Here's a number that's easier to feel than a statistic. If you earned $60,000 in 2019, you would need $73,700 today to have the same purchasing power. That's a $13,700 gap. If your salary grew from $60,000 to $68,000 since then, which is solid growth, you're still $5,700 behind where you were. You lost ground while moving forward. Run that against your own number. Whatever you made in 2019, multiply it by 1.23. That's what you'd need to earn today just to break even. Don't get ahead. Break even. Most people reading their salary right now are not there. The overall inflation number, CPI, Consumer Price Index, gets cited in news segments and earnings calls. It's a blended average of hundreds of goods and services. But averages hide the categories that are actually killing your budget because inflation did not hit every expense equally. It hit the things you cannot skip. Housing first. Between 2019 and 2024, median rents in the U.S. rose 30% nationally, according to Zillow's rental index. In cities like Austin, that number was closer to 50%. In Miami, rents more than doubled in some neighborhoods. The median monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the U.S. crossed $1,500 in 2023 for the first time. In 2019, it was around $1,100. That's an extra $4,800 a year in rent, gone. Before groceries, before gas, before anything else. And before anyone says just buy a house, median home prices went from $313,000 in 2019 to $420,000 in 2024. Mortgage rates went from 3.6% to above 7%. The monthly payment on a median-priced home more than doubled. Owning is not the escape from housing inflation that people assume. Groceries. USDA data shows food-at-home prices rose about 25% between 2020 and 2024. A grocery run that cost $120 in 2020 costs $150 for the same cart. That's $1,560 a year. No upgrades. No extras. The same food. Healthcare. The Kaiser Family Foundation found that employer-sponsored health insurance premiums rose 22% between 2019 and 2024 for family coverage. Even when your employer absorbs the bulk of it, your out-of-pocket costs, deductibles, co-pays, and prescriptions climb alongside. The average family deductible now exceeds $3,000 before insurance pays a dollar. Childcare? If you have kids under 5, this one. The Center for American Progress puts the average annual cost of childcare in the U.S. at $10,600 per child per year. In some states, such as Massachusetts, California, and Washington, D.C., full-time daycare costs more than in-state college tuition. These prices have gone up 26% since 2019. Add it up. A family that rents, buys groceries, carries health insurance, and has one child in daycare is spending conservatively $8,000 to $12,000 more per year than they were in 2019 on the same life. Not a better life. The same one. For that family to break even, not prosper, their household income would have had to grow somewhere between 18% and 22% since 2019. Most households did not see that. Here's where it gets unfair. Wage growth during this period was not equal across industries. Some workers genuinely kept pace or pulled ahead. Most didn't. Leisure and hospitality workers, hotel staff, restaurant employees saw nominal wage growth of about 28% between 2019 and 2023 per BLS data. That sounds strong until you put it next to 21% cumulative inflation over the same period. The real gain was maybe 7%, coming from a very low starting base. They're still the lowest paid sector in the country. Technology workers, before the mass layoffs, saw real gains. Median software engineer salaries were hitting $130,000 by 2022, according to levels.fy. Then the sector shed over 250,000 jobs in 2023 alone, and salaries compressed as competition for remaining roles increased. The gains weren't durable. Teachers, social workers, and public administrators largely did not keep pace. A 2023 Economic Policy Institute study found that public school teachers earn 26% less than comparable private sector workers. That gap has widened since 2019. The people tasked with the public good got the worst deal. The workers who actually saw their real wages rise fall into 3 groups. Workers in skilled trades where demand outpaced supply, such as electricians, HVAC technicians, and plumbers. Workers who change jobs aggressively. And workers who own income-producing assets. That second group is worth pausing on. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta publishes a wage tracker that separates wage growth by job switchers versus job stayers. In 2022, job switchers saw nominal wage growth of about 8.4%. Job seekers saw 5.5%. When inflation was running at 7%, staying put was, statistically, a pay cut. The loyalty premium is gone. The mobility premium replaced it. When people realize their purchasing power is eroding, the instinct is to chase more income. Negotiate a raise. Find a higher-paying job. Get a certification. Work extra hours. This is not wrong. But it's missing something critical, and that gap is why people can go from $50,000 to $90,000 over a decade and still feel like they're behind. The problem with salary as your primary financial strategy is that salary gets consumed almost all of it. The more you earn, the more the world around you costs. Lifestyle inflation is real, and it's not purely a self-control failure. Rent in a better neighborhood costs more. Your tax bracket changes. Your social circle's baseline spending rises. The costs follow the income. There is also a ceiling that most salary growth conversations ignore. The BLS publishes occupation wage data by percentile. For most white-collar jobs, the 90th percentile earner makes roughly 2.5 to 3 times the median. If you're an accountant today at the median salary of $78,000, the realistic ceiling for your profession as a senior partner at a public firm, big city, decades in, is maybe $160,000 to $180,000. Most people never get there, and getting there takes 25 years. Meanwhile, from 2019 to 2024, the S&P 500 returned roughly 85% in total returns, including dividends. The median home price rose 34%. People who owned assets grew wealth in their sleep. People who only owned their salary worked harder and broke even. That gap between asset owners and salary earners does not close through effort. It closes through owning things that appreciate, produce income, or both. So what does this mean in practice? The first shift is in which question you're asking. Not how do I earn more, but how do I convert what I earn into something that earns without me? That looks different for different people. A brokerage account in index funds, a rental property, a small business generating revenue that doesn't require your daily hours, dividend stocks, a digital product or content that pays long after you built it. The form varies. The function is the same, income that is not attached to your labor, because income attached to your labor is permanently exposed to inflation, to recession, to a bad quarter, to a health problem, to getting older. The math for starting is less dramatic than most people expect. If you had invested $500 per month into a basic S&P 500 index fund starting in January 2019, by the end of 2024, you would have roughly $52,000 despite the worst inflation in 4 decades and 2 significant market drops in between. That $52,000 generates around $1,040 per year in dividends at a 2% yield. Not life-changing on its own, but it grows every year without you doing anything after setting it up. The second shift is how you negotiate. Stop treating your current employer like the market. The best single pay increase most workers see in a given year comes from changing jobs, not from performing better. Not from asking more professionally. From leaving. The Fed's wage tracker has shown this consistently for 5 straight years. If your employer is not matching inflation, if your real wage is declining, the market might well be paying what your role is actually worth right now. The third shift is the simplest and most ignored. Track your real wage once a year. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has a free CPI calculator at bls.gov. You enter your salary in a past year, pick the current year, and it tells you what you'd need to earn today to match that purchasing power. 2 minutes. Most people never run this number. That's how they spend years believing they're getting ahead when the math says otherwise. Maria, the accountant from Dallas at the start of this, ran her numbers in early 2022. She realized that her real wage had been declining for 2 years. She changed jobs later that year, negotiated up to $82,000, opened a Roth IRA, and started putting $400 a month into a brokerage account. She's not wealthy. She's not done working. But for the first time since 2019, her real wage is going up, and she has assets compounding behind her while she does. The sequence matters. Understand what's actually happening to your purchasing power, stop waiting for your employer to protect it, and start building something outside the paycheck. The salary going up is not the goal. The goal is owning something that inflation cannot quietly steal while you're busy staring at the number on your offer letter. Most people are losing that game right now and calling it progress,